Hi everyone, welcome back to Pigs TV. Today I'm going to go through a new series about Beyond All Reason, also known as BAR. You've probably seen from the title that it's called Vanilla Ice Cream Edition, and some people are going, well, there's no Vanilla Ice Cream Edition. What pig's on about, you idiot? But actually, this is a series that I've been planning for a little while. That I am a novice myself. I've not yet played any 1v1 on the ladders or 2v2s or anything like that. What my idea is for me to actually get used to the game before I actually step up the marking and do that. And what I thought was, because I have played the tutorials and things like that, I actually want to progress and show you how I progressed, hopefully, and then you can take them things on board. So if you're a complete novice, you've never installed it, don't even know what it was, so welcome, and obviously welcome to everybody else that has played it. Hence the reason why it's called Novice to Master eventually. Well, that's the idea. Anyway, so that's the idea behind it. And this video today, I'm going to try and go through three little bits. I don't normally write scripts, I just wing them, probably like a lot of the other YouTubers, etc. do. But this time I just wrote a few things down just to remind myself about what I wanted to actually talk about. So there's sort of three sections on this, and I don't think people tend to cover these things. Eventually we will be looking at a bit of the game down the line today, but what I was wanting to cover was sort of three little bits to give people insights on what I think I've learned or I remember. So the first bit is the history behind BAR as it's known. Now let's put it this way, a bit older than probably yourself, maybe, or some of the other people that have played this game and past games that it's based on. So I can go back to the early years of where this actually came from, was TA, Total Annihilation, which for me is probably one of the best games that's ever been designed. It was such a fantastic game. I can't stipulate that enough. I had the pleasure of playing that again, actually recently myself, about 6 months ago, and I really enjoyed it, even though the way that it's designed now would be classed as, oh, it doesn't look very good, it's that, but it's just, it pulls you into the game, and that's what you want. That's what you want an RTS to do, is pull you into the game. So that's basically where it comes from, and they obviously, Gas Powered Games, they went down. Chris Taylor's, the lead designer on there. It was his vision for it. And obviously they went bankrupt, etc., etc. And obviously people took that idea and was able to get to run with it in a community. This is what BAR is. And obviously BAR, the developers, have done a fantastic job of updating it. There's some incredibly talented developers out there. Being a developer myself, in different areas, not necessarily games, but developing myself, I know how much difficult it is to actually design something, especially on this scale. So that's the history. Also, I also wanted to talk about I'm running this on a PC. You can, I think, run it on a Mac, and I think you can run it on a Linux-based system, or Linux. I call it Linux. It's up to you. But this is primarily on a Windows. It's currently not going to be on Steam, but I know that's what their plan is, hence the reason why this is called the alpha version. And usually our alpha version, what it means is things are going to change. So I don't know how long you'll be watching this down the line, but you have to take some of this with a pinch of salt. But what I'm going to try and do is when there's major updates and things like that, is I'm going to try and come back and say, well, this is it was done here, and then some of the changes, I'll go and produce another tutorial. But like I said, I wanted to talk about the PC you need to run this sort of thing. Not many people, I know there's probably information there on the website to say it's it, but it's actually a lot more complicated than that sounds. If I compare my old gaming rig, for an example, and this is the one I'm actually using now. I have several. I'm lucky enough to have several machines. My office machine, what I do, the videos and other things, Photoshop is directly behind me. That's an older machine, but the gaming one was the oldest one that I did have, and then it took me about 2 years or so to get a new one, and this is what I'm actually using now. So if we compare like I said, the old gaming rig to the new gaming rig, so the old gaming rig was a 2010 machine. It had 8 gig of RAM. It was running, I think it was running an i5. I would say it was a quad core, but I wouldn't take that as a pistol shot, but I think it was. It was running. I don't think the version of the motherboard. I think it was a B5 something. But I don't really think that makes too much of a difference. Although everything runs from motherboards, so the better motherboard that you can afford is better. And my graphics card was a Radeon HD 6790. And you're going, oh, that's right. But what you've got to realise is, in 2010, that was a pretty decent machine. It was a, I would say probably mid high maybe, or in that sort of spec, sort of thing. And even now, it was you could play StarCraft 2 with it perfectly fine, no problem with it. And then they say like Factorio, which I think is a fantastic game, but I don't want to go off topic with that. And that sort of thing. But when I would run at the time when I tried it in 22, this was around March 22 when I first seen actually that. I do apologise. I think there's a helicopter. I live quite not far from a museum, a helicopter museum in the southwest of England. So if you ever hear that, my apologies. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, so I have to get back on top of you now. But yeah, so if you take that machine and the problem I was having is I installed it and updated it, got all down, found all the maps, downloaded all the maps and that sort of thing. And I tried the first tutorial, and I was getting 2 FPS. It was so bad, I just couldn't play it. And I was so disappointed because I was so excited. Finally, a new sort of RTS game, but I can actually get into that. It's it comes from TA, which, like I said, I've still got them all. I've got every single of them sort of things. TA, the contingency, Forge Alliance. I've got them all. Even it shows how old they are on CD. So I can go back that long. And I loved it. So that's why I wanted to play it. And I just didn't have a PC. So what I would spend the next, almost 2 years was sat there just watching YouTube videos and on a night and enjoying that and learning some of the, it's not the same as when you're playing it, I would admit. But anyway, yeah. So if we compare that machine to the one I actually have now, which is the motherboard is an Asus Z790. And I always state, I didn't build this machine, but I normally build all my own machines. But I always say is when you're building a machine, and it's slightly off topic, but it does matter for future things that you want to do, especially in the PC world. Always spend as much money as you can on a motherboard. Why? Because everything goes through that. It's important to think about the future if you can afford to think about the future, not just now. So that's why I chose that. It's a DDR5 motherboard, not a DDR4 motherboard. So yes, I have DDR5 RAM and I have 32 gig in it, which for bar is 16 is definitely minimum. Any more that you can put in there, not just for bar but for future plans, is better. And I think that's running at 66,000 megahertz, I think, or maybe 64. I can't remember the spec of that. I'm running all SSDs, so again, you don't have the slowdown, which what I was also having was on the old machine. It was actually running through a 3.5 hard drive, so it's 7.2 thousand revolutions a minute. But but it just was not able to push through the data just as fast for obvious reasons. So I'm running all SSDs on this. They are all the Samsung brand because I like Samsung. I think they're a fantastic brand, and I've actually had no problems with their drives on all the drives. And I'm talking, I have a lot of SSDs throughout my systems I have and backups, etc., etc. So yeah, and then we go back to the Achilles heel. Now this is always the graphics card is always the one where you can be spend a little bit less or a little bit more, depending on the money that you do have. So what I have is because I'm a fan of AMD. That's no disrespect to Nvidia, but I'm a fan of AMD. Although I'm not a fan of their CPU. And the CPU I have in here is the i9 1490K F in it. And the only reason why I went for the Ks and the Fs series over the standard 4090 is there wasn't that much difference between them at the time in cost. So, it's the old story. You can go buy yourself a Ferrari, you don't have to drive it like a Ferrari, you know what I mean? So I decided, nah, and it goes up to 6 gig. I don't know how much of this game is multi-threaded, but I assume some of it is. So it could potentially help in that scenario as well. Again, being like I said, a programmer, I know bits about here and about there. I should do over the years. I've been doing it for long enough. So yes, it could be multi-threaded. I would assume it is, but some things may not be. But anyway, digress. So yes, so I've got with a graphics card, I've got a 7800 XT. And that's what I picked. It's higher, lower, but I was not willing to spend the £2,000. Obviously, I'm in English, so it's pounds, not dollars. To go for the Nvidias. I just don't think it warrants that money. I think that's far too expensive for a gaming rig. Although, like I said, it's one thing about you don't tend to change your motherboard. You don't tend to change your CPU, but your graphics card you can change. Whether it goes down and you have to, in a few years the fans go or whatever, and you have to buy another one. Then you can be a bit more, in a sense, skimpy on that. But it's just about trying to get that balance. And obviously, it's the money that you have. If you have a decent enough machine now, don't worry about it. Just try it out. That's what it's about. But if you find that you've got that dip like I had, or it's too slow, it's not so much when you're playing, let's say, the tutorials and things like that. It's when you're going on to the multiplayer. You can imagine there's thousands. You can imagine about all the mathematics and all the other things that have to go on with the missiles and bombs and everything. And you're not talking just about you. You're talking about your fellow players and your team, maybe, or your enemy teams. It's all about that needs a gritty machine to be able to pull that around. And obviously, what the problem is when you're playing in a team, for an example, and you don't have a powerful enough machine, not just a machine itself. Obviously, when you're doing that, you're actually playing on the internet. And I'm not a lover of going wireless. I'm in a old place anyway. Mine place is about 120 or 150 years old. So everything's thick in these. The thick walls, thick everything. It's very difficult to get a wireless from where I am, what I call my office, right into my living room. It's practically impossible. It just doesn't work very well. So I'm looking enough when I bought this and technically savvy enough to be able to rip out the parts of the stuff, and I put a network in. So mine's all network, so it's easier. But if you are playing it, say, on a laptop or whatever else, and you've got the facility to plug it directly into the wall or your router, kids may not have, but please do it. you'll find it a better experience if you've got the decent machine, because it won't slow you down, and it's better for you as a player, because obviously if you're sat there and you're watching it, what they call cache-in, you can say, oh, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. In other words, it's trying to catch up to the game where they are at the time. Your enemy comes in, blows your base up, blows you up, you're stood there, nobody can understand why you just stood there. It's because you can't do anything, because you're still waiting. So there's that situation to look at as well. It might not happen that with other games, but it certainly can happen with this sort of game. So, that being said, so I've gone through little bits. Anything in the comments that you're not sure about, or you've got other ideas, or you disagree with me, by all means, put it down there, and we can always go from there. So, what I want to cover now is, let's say we'll go from a little gameplay. Now, this is, like I said, this is from my perspective. I'm a novice at this game. But because I'm a novice, I've watched other people do tutorials of other things, and because they know a huge amount of the game, they tend to skip over. So you'll not see me use, this is, again, like it says, a vanilla. I've not messed with keys. I'm not binding any keys to anything. It's completely as you would install it. Why? Because that's exactly the same for me. The only thing at the moment is when you load it up, is I have the settings, as you can see here, I have it down, so now you can hear the music. That's the only thing that you would see. Otherwise, it could get quite distracting for you. But in the game, that shouldn't be a problem. It should play. So let's go to a single player. I'll load the scenario up because it's a first level. As you see, I've played a few of them. As you say, I've played 3 here. But what I've done is, instead of just going through the scenario and then go to the next one, I've played, let's say, the first one about 100 times at least, just to get used to the mechanics of the game. That's what you're trying to do. The thing is, if you jump straight into a multiplayer thing, you will get absolutely obliterated. These people, even if they've been playing it for a short period of time, you'll see their numbers. Especially, you will see some of the really good players. I mean, that's changed over the time that I've been with it. We were what we class in hyphens as the pros. Would be from possibly anything, say lower, high 30s to lower, say to 45. I think the actual level of what we class as pro has increased now. I think they're even better than they were before. So, again, you'll see them. So don't be intimidated by these people that are incredibly good with it. It takes time. And that's what I'm at. That's what I wanted to do. I'm trying to try and get used to sort of sections of each thing before I go into the multiplayer. And that's what I want to do. I want to play against people. And I also want to host, and hopefully somebody like you will come and play where we can all, have a community with it. But anyway, I digress. Let's just start this scenario. It's obviously the first one and the first one and the first one of everything. So now we're loading up all the textures and things like that. So it is a really good 3D. I know some people have complained about what it looks like and says, oh, it's really simplistic. But you don't want something that's over, you don't want to burden your machine. You want to play it. The whole point of a decent RTS.
Battle starting.
Of a decent RTS is it's changed, and that little annoying burr was never there. So in a new version recently, I just upgraded it, so I'd never even heard that before. So as you can see here, we've got in bar. I'll just go through a few parts of it. So we've got metal, as you can see, it's just going up here. We've also got energy. We've also got wind, power, and tidal. Tidal on this one is not really much. There's only, as if you see with my cursor, that's a bit of tidal. It's pointless building what they call tidal generators. It will work, but nobody in the first map would normally do that. And bear in mind, it's your first thing, so you wouldn't really know what they are. Obviously, you've got your other things, save lobby and everything else. We've also got down here our quick menu. Like I said, this is what you should see in your version when you run it. I've not changed it. I've not messed about with anything. Hence the reason Vanilla Ice Cream Edition. So you know. And then we got our lovely commander just sat there waiting for me to actually do something. He is one of the most powerful in the game. He's got this nice little D gun, which, as you can see, when I move over here, it's a D. I'll fire it, and that will blow anything up in the game. So that's what you have to remember. But obviously that uses energy, as you can see. Now my energy is going back up. And you can move with this slider up and down. Not so much the metal. You'll probably leave that as is. But you in multiplayer, you have that option. Once it's full, and it'll just tell you to waste the metal. So I personally, when I play, some of them play this, like I said, slightly different. I personally prefer the solar panels. So I'm just selected that. You can press that down once on left click and it will start building. But what you can also do is, unfortunately you can't see what I'm actually doing, but I'll explain it. If you hold the shift key down and you press that again, we can actually hold that down and actually press several. Now the other is, when you're starting, you will start to learn what order you feel is better for you. And obviously, as you're playing more, different maps, different scenarios, or different everything, even in a multiplayer, you will play it slightly different. But it's about learning it from scratch. So really now we've got these solar panels, we're producing too much energy. This is like the chicken and the egg scenario. Is you can't have one without the other, but you need one before the other. You know, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Who knows? But let's say we wanted to store more of that energy, and obviously it costs metal, as we can see here. It costs 170 to 1700. We can quickly look at, oh, that's perfectly fine. We can quickly select that. If you want to build more, you can, but left click and then just go through and build that again. Now, as that's building, you can actually hold the shift key down, so he won't. So the whole point is he won't move. While you're doing that, you can set up multiple things. And now this is what I'll do. So we'll set up multiple things. Now I want a metal extractor, because obviously I want to get more metal. It's again. Metal is probably the most important one, but we can also use energy to produce metal, which I'll show you in a few minutes. So again, we can hold that. I've got nothing else to build, but it's given me where I want to build it. And it depends on if you have some ODC or whatever, or DC, or you know what I mean, whether you want them. You can build them very close, as you can see, anywhere around that, and it's fine. So I'm holding the shift, and I left click. I'll hold the shift, I'll left click. So that's now done a path. It's going to build that one first, and then he's going to walk and then build that one. And then the same scenario, we'll build all these. We don't really need to, but we'll build all these. We don't have to worry too much of this. The AI on the other side is really placid. After about 50, 60 minutes, they'll build enough army and they'll get bored and they'll want to come again. But will be finished. Hopefully it should be finished by that time. And like I said, I'm not actually going to play this level. I'm just going to show you. So once we build all this, now we increase our metal count. This slider, it's something I noticed recently that nobody really went over. This slider is actually a lot more important when we come to what they call metal converters. Now, a metal converter, while this is building, it uses energy. So I'll just stop there. So now he's moving to the arrow cursor. So you can, again, it's right click to move him anywhere you want to move him, and he'll move around. So I've got different structures to build. So in BAR, there is what they call a bot lab. So this in your faction. Now I'm playing the Armada, so there's 3 factions. There's 2, even in Total Annihilation. There's only 2, if I remember rightly. We've got the Cortex, we've got the Armada, which is I'm playing as the first scenario will do. I assume in later tutorials you would change to, or you could change to different ones. And then we've actually got a 3rd one that they've built in there called Legion. which is an experimental one, which is not in every game, but you can turn it on and do whatever else. But what we've got is we've got the bot labs, so they are robots effectively. We've got vehicles, which could be tanks, anything like that. We've also got planes, again, same, or aircraft, if you want to call them. Same scenario. We've also got hover, so in other words, they will go over the water. So you've got all them different manufacturing facilities, which we need to be, we need to build these to obviously go and fight this enemy. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a bot lab. Now, as I'm moving this around, that arrow that's currently at the top is where they're going to come out of that facility. If I want to rotate or I want it in a different direction, I press the bracket keys. It's the one near the, I think that's what, I tried to think what they call them. The bracket key is near your enter key, left and right. And as you can see, they're actually telling you north, south, east, west. So if I, again, just press that down and it'll start building that. So once he's started building that, then we have to decide. We can actually decide what we want to build after that as that's building. So we've got what they call a construction bot. We've got a Lazarus, which basically will take metal. It will go around and get metal or energy, depending on what it is. Whether if it's a bot, whether it's whether it's an enemy item, or whether it's some trees or things like that, which is energy. We've also got a little tick, cheapest thing, runs around really fast, and obviously that can be for spine. It's not the greatest thing, but it can kill these metal extractors and things like that. Pawns, I think. So we've got all, I won't go through them all, but we've got all these different things that we can actually do with this building. Now, this building, it has tiers. So this is building 1. So if we want to build a construction bot, which we do in this scenario, but we're building this pretty slow. So we can actually move our commander over and right click on that and actually start to build, increase the speed a bit. But what you've got to also realize, as we're building it faster, your metal is going down and your energy going down. What we're trying to do is we're trying to do as fast as we build things as fast as we can, but not try and get the energy and metal low. It will happen. It will happen all the time. So, but we can also, as we're building, let's say we'll do another one. Now as that construction is moved, it'll find its spot. It knows that it's wanting to build another one, and then it will start to help that one. That is an advantage because obviously it makes things faster for you to build. You can also, if you want to grab, I am not done grouping or anything on this game so far, so I'm not going to group them together. But if I want to drag, left click and drag and select several, or I can left click one and I can press the shift key again and that selects 2. Same scenario, depending on what you're doing. You can actually send both of them off at the same time. So again, press your metal extractor and just start doing that. It's very important to sort of scroll in and out of this game quite as often as you can, and then scroll back again. If obviously you get lost and I come over here, or I can always select myself back into the actual use the minimap, which you should be using quite often. So again, because we'll go through something else. So I made an energy storage there. So we can also make a metal storage. So we'll just dump that down here. At the moment, it doesn't matter where. I like things quite tidy. But you've also got to know when you're playing, let's say the AI, or eventually playing somebody else, you want to try and keep things away from each other because they can explode. There is certain keys where you could do a grid. In other words, these solar panels, you could separate them out from each other. I haven't fully got that. I'm sure they recently changed that because I'm sure it was something like Control and Alt and did it, and it made them separately, and maybe the Z, and something didn't go right. So I'm just doing like that. And obviously, if you've not played the game, you wouldn't really know this. But that's just why I said it's an ice cream edition. So we're going from novice to hopefully expert. A master. So let's build another one. He's obviously trolling around. They're in around. They're not going to do anything for, like I said, 50 minutes. We've also got our, obviously, while that's building, our time we're playing, our volume. I've got that pretty low at the moment. Watch speed, FPS at 60. It doesn't seem to, on my, I don't know whether it's my graphics card or whatever it is, it doesn't seem to get any lower or any higher than, it's definitely not lower than 59 or higher than 59. And then we've, I don't actually know what 1251 is actually. Oh, sorry, time. Silly me. That clearly I'm recording it, but that's obviously the time that we're doing this. And so now we've got the construction bot, a tier 1 construction bot. We can now produce different. If you left click the commander, he can only produce anything that's 1 basically, and nothing else. But he can obviously help other, like I showed you. So we're trying to maximize. Obviously, I'm taking this slow, so there's, my metal and everything's quite high at the moment. So let's say, for instance, we want to build what I called an advanced. Well, it is an advanced solar panel, and I'll do again left when I'm on it, left click, and that'll I'm producing 2. Again, we can go over. But we can also, what we want to do is, we can use the energy that we've got 7,000 here to produce more metal. So what we could do is energy converters. As I see it, 70 energy at the moment produces 1 metal a second. So if we do that, again, I just selected them, I put them anywhere on this, but like I said, what you try to do is you try to stagger these so the door, when an enemy comes over and tries to blow it up, he doesn't blow it up. Now here's a scenario that I found out recently. If you notice that these energy are in blue, why am I not getting metal? What's this actually mean? And I couldn't work it out. And it's actually this little bar. What this bar means is I'm telling it, as you can see, look at that. Once I start to move that down, so in other words, once I go over the amount of that energy in that bar, it will start to turn on the curtain converters. And it tells you here, because I've made converters, it tells you how good they are and what they're taking out. And I think that's how many you have. I don't particularly, how much metal you're producing. So they're running at 100%. They are taking out 200 energy, and they're obviously running, and then eventually they'll turn themselves off. That's an important part. So if I push that up, they'll go back down again. That's something I learned recently that I didn't know. And it's a very important part of this. And a lot of people that I've seen forget, or they just don't understand what that bar is actually supposed to be for. In a multiplayer, there's another one. There's a red bar, but that's for a team. So obviously, the idea of that is when you bring that down, is after that you're sharing metal or you're sharing sort of energy with your team. It's different to this. This is how energy converters work. So now I produced enough. We can now, for an example, produce sort of bots. Pawns are relatively easy one. I'm not going over the top to try and say this is how you play it. I'm just trying to show you the basics of this, how it could work, or how it should work, or how I think it should work. Like I said, I produced the solar panel over the wind turbine. That's a personal preference. These here, as you're looking at here, they produce 50. But these produce more, but they cost more to build. So the idea is, if you want to, again, it's a chicken and egg. So now I've got that really low. I'm overproduced in metal. So if I could want to increase that, eventually these will, like you say, they'll shut themselves off and they can't produce any more metal. So you don't really, I found in the game, you don't want a massive amount of metal storage or a massive amount of energy rush, certainly in the start of the game. But I always find it to have however you want to do it. I tend to produce a couple of solar panels, then an energy, then go and do the metal, and then say a bottle lab. Depending on, I mean, here I'm using a bottle lab. It's flat enough a terrain that you could do a vehicle if you really wanted. That's the thing. Vehicles struggle more on rough terrain. You want a flat one on a bot. And obviously, then I know where they are. You could send them over, and they will get obliterated. But that's it for now. Like I said, this is the start of this vanilla series. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you, like I said, I hope you install bar and you've got enough power from the machine to run the thing. But don't be despondent if you say, "Oh well, I'm not gonna listen to pigs. I'm just gonna play the multiplayer," and you get the tear you apart. It's about learning the mechanics of the game before you're actually. It's like walk and run. You have to walk before you can run. And that's what I'm actually doing. So, and like I said, I've not played any of that. I'm trying to understand the mechanics and which is the best. Which is the best on the scenario I'm like here. I've got all these metal right next to it, but I might only have on certain maps two, or I might have only one. What's the best scenario to get over that? And I think I've taken you through a little bit just to get used to that. But by all means, if there's anything in the comments you want me to cover, and I'll be covering as I'm doing more, and we'll all go from there. Like I say, like and subscribe if you want to. But I just hope you enjoy it and enjoy your barring. Bye for now.